Yo, this is Pastor Dieter here with another message with our youth series on how family matters. Now, I want to start with the obvious when it comes to family, when it comes to your life in general, and it's this, and this is where I want to start with today, okay? Things change, okay? People change, even families change. I know that's obvious, but that's a reality that I want you to understand, okay? The thing about life is that things change. I mean, 2020 is a perfect example. I mean, look how much things have changed. Look how much people have changed throughout this whole process. Look how much shopping has changed, going out has changed, school has changed. So many things have changed. And that's just inevitable, right? Now, change isn't fun for a lot of people, right? Because and think about that, like there's so many of us that we would look at things and be like, yeah, there's a lot that needs to change in the world, and we'll say it with us, right? It's like, there's a lot that I need to grow in. I know there's something that needs to change. We all want to change, but no one wants to work for it. No one wants to go through it because it's difficult. You know, we like things to be safe, stable, the same, comfortable, right? We like that. But then, what happens when something hits your family and something unexpected hits your family and you have to deal with it? And now things have changed, or if you don't process it right, you can change, and not for the better. I mean, what about, hey, your parents get divorced, right? Someone loses their job, one of your parents loses their job, you now have to, or they gain another job, and now you have to go to another complete city. Or state, and you have to start all over with new friends, and that's a big change right there, right? It could be something big, it could be something small. Maybe you have an addition to the family, you got a new brother and sister you're gonna adopt, that's awesome. But now that adds so much more. Now the family is not just you or two, it's more than that. Or what if you have somebody in your family, they pass away? Right? Or someone goes off to college now, right? Or maybe you have you're really good friends with your siblings, yet now they get a little older and now they have older friends and they don't want to hang out with you. Or they get a girlfriend, a boyfriend, and now it's like, who are you now? Right? Change happens. And I want you guys to know that. And it's very important for us to understand and look when it comes to God, and how do we look to God and have faith in a world that is constantly changing, and even us, we're gonna change too. The thing about life, guys, is listen, and the thing about change is that it's inevitable. I mean, King Solomon says it in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, when he has this big list of, sometimes there's a time for peace and a time for war. There's a time for this and a time for that. There's a time for laughing, time for crying. Time for this, time for that. There's a time for things to stay the same, but then there's the time for change to happen. There's a time for everything, especially change, and it's inevitable. And so that is something that's important, because here's the one thing I want you to realize. Because when it comes to things changing and you can't do anything about it, that can be scary, right? It actually, here's what change does. It's something that's super positive. It reminds us that we are not in control. So many times we think that, we can be in control of our own life, and we're in control of our circumstances, our understanding, but when things happen that we cannot touch or control, it reminds us that we have never been in control. So what do we do? What do we do when we know that times change and things will happen? Well, you need to rest on the fact of this one truth right here. Out of everything that happens, right, change is inevitable, but you know what? God will never change. God changing? That's impossible. That's impossible. He doesn't change. He is the same. He says it. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And when we look at the scriptures, we see that. We see that played out throughout story after story. God doesn't change. In fact, when it goes to the times and the processes and the difficulties, when we're going through the change, God says, I'm going to be right there with you. In fact, in Isaiah 43, it says that when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and you will not drown. When you go through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. Even if you go into the fire, I will be with you. And that's an encouraging thing that I want you, when it comes to your family, because listen, things happen all the time. Maybe something difficult might happen to one of your parents, and they change, and not for the better, and then that changes everything, right? Or something really happens to you, and now you don't want to have that relationship with your parents like you used to, and now everything is changed. When you know, and especially 2020, if 2020 has taught us anything, it's to get comfortable and used to change. But the thing that I want you to understand is that despite everything that has changed, despite how much you have changed and are still going to change, God never will. And when you go through the process, though it might be difficult, though it might be overwhelming, God says, I can bring you through it. I can bring you through each and every one of those moments. And that's an important thing that I want to remind you about today. And so here's a way. I want you to change the way you think of change, all right? I want you to change the way you view change. You know, I'm not saying that you got to embrace it and love it all the time. I'm not telling you got to change every 2 seconds. But I want you to change the way you view change, especially more the way you view God in the process. In fact, here's something that I want you to understand. Here's the bottom line really for today. It's this. When your family changes, your mindset matters. Okay? When your family goes through changes, your mindset matters. Okay? Because again, change is inevitable. So what does your mindset mean? Meaning, if you're gonna have a positive attitude, you're able to get through it better. Even though it might be difficult. I'm not saying be happy with the change, because some of these changes I mentioned are really sad and hard. But your mindset matters, knowing that God is with you during the change. Thinking right here that though I might not like it, I'm not in control, but God is in control and I can trust Him to help me. So here's a couple of steps that I want to encourage you with today when it comes to experiencing change in your family. Number 1, understand that change will happen. Okay, review. Number 2, know that God is with you. And number 3, trust that God can use that change to change you. All right, to help you grow. Even though maybe you didn't want it, you didn't ask for it, it wasn't your fault, maybe it was. Take that moment and ask, because God is with you. Say, Lord, use this process, this difficult process, to help me to learn more about you, to lean on you more, to understand who you are, so I can be better, so I can be more like you, Jesus. Listen, that's the mindset that we need to have, especially when it comes to change. Because listen, change is not easy. Dealing with change is not easy. Again, 2020 has been very difficult for a lot of people, including your parents, including the people that are your guardians, your grandparents, and those like that. Listen, change is not easy. I don't need to tell you that. You know that. You're smart. Change is not easy, but you know what? Nothing is impossible for Jesus. Though change might be difficult for us, nothing is impossible for God. And so I want you to put your trust in Him. Remember that if you're going through that right now, know that God is with you. Just trust in Him, lean on Him, and He'll guide you through. And if not, if things are going okay right now, well, remember, you're going to need to remember this next time when something doesn't go your way and things change and you weren't expecting it. Okay? Though going through change is difficult, it's not impossible, because there is nothing impossible for God. And God promises if you trust in Him, He will guide you, He is with you, and He will help you get through.